16 suspects have been charged with kidnapping more than 100 children in Chad for passage to Europe. Was it a sincere attempt to offer war orphans a helping hand, or a sordid case of human trafficking? This is Inside Story. Hello, I'm Imran Gabda. 16 people face up to 20 years in jail over an alleged plot to spirit scores of children from Africa to France. The charity behind the scheme has been accused of kidnap and child trafficking, but it claims it was removing the children from the stricken border between Chad and Darfur for medical treatment and a better life in Europe. Mohammed Shukair reports.
Confused and traumatized, most of them aged just 3 to 5. Some can't even tell the workers trying to help them which country they are from, or whether they have anywhere to go. 103 children were removed from this charter plane shortly before it took off from Arbish in Chad, destined for France. Families there had paid at least 2,000 euros each to provide the youngsters with homes. The airlift was organized by French charity Zoe's Ark. It says the children were orphans of war-torn Darfur who risked death in makeshift camps. But aid agencies and the French and Canadian authorities dispute that.
It's sad. It's horrible, these little kids, 4 to 5 years old, who are taken away from their communities, perhaps even taken away from their families.
9 French nationals, 6 Zoe's Ark workers and 3 journalists have been charged with abduction and fraud. 7 members of the Spanish air crew face charges of complicity. All deny wrongdoing. Zoe's Ark claims it had the children's interest at heart.
We can't go to Darfur because we are not allowed in, but the people who brought them to us couldn't take care of them any longer, and they asked us for our help.
It's hoped many of the children can soon be reunited with their parents. Meanwhile, those in detention face up to 20 years in jail.
Well, joining us to discuss this issue are our guests. In London, Karina Saki, Protection Advocacy Advisor for Save the Children. In Cairo, Mohammed Mahjoub Haroun, a Sudanese academic and political analyst. And on the line from Paris, and Elizabeth Moutay, a French journalist and a former bureau chief for the Sunday Telegraph. Thank you very much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Haroun, if I could start off with you, do you think Zoe's Ark intended to kidnap the children?
There seems to be some indications that there was such an intention. I mean, to kidnap these kids from Darfur and Chad for reasons that are not yet known sufficiently. But to me, there are some good signs that the entire operation was intended to serve some purposes that doesn't seem to be correct.
What sort of purposes, sir?
I mean if it's an operation that was intended to help such kids of war, then there was no good reason to do it this way. I mean, it's clear now that the French authorities are not knowing enough about the operation. The French president came out denouncing this operation. The Chadian authorities as well were not knowing that there is such an organization which was trying to take these kids for some good reasons, and so are the Sudanese authorities. So, I mean, these are the indications that make me be more skeptical about the intentions of this organization.
Let's go to Ms. Saki in London. Gilbert Collard, the lawyer for Zoe's Ark, L'Arche de Zoe, said, "We're dealing with humanitarian hardliners who walked off the beaten track. They wanted to do things differently. That doesn't mean they wanted to do it dishonestly." Do you buy that?
Well, I don't buy that. I think that, you know, regardless of the motives, what Zoe's Ark did or attempted to do was wrong. And it was wrong for 3 main reasons. Firstly, it broke the law and it broke every due process there is about the transportation of children. Secondly, it provided entirely the wrong sort of help for these children who really need to be looked after in their families, in their communities. And thirdly, it sends entirely the wrong message to other Westerners who might want to help these children in need, and also to desperate families in these poor countries who are increasingly putting their children in institutions and abandoning them in the hope that organisations like Zoe's Children and other unscrupulous organisations will take them out to the West for a better life.
And looking at the response to these happenings, Ms. Moutay in Paris, Chad's President Idriss Déby certainly didn't mince his words in response to what has happened. And as part of his criticism of the entire debacle, he said that they treat us like animals. Do you think this was a little bit over the top?
Oh, I think President Déby, who has a case, of course, because I agree with the other two participants that this was ill-thought, ill-conceived, and a bad idea from start to finish. But certainly President Déby is seizing the opportunity to solve a number of problems that are internal to Chad. There have been rumors that, the president, has talked about spreading disease and all sorts of things which belong in the realm of conspiracy theories. So he's pushing this for all it's worth, but it starts with something in which he's definitely right, which is that this was the wrong thing to do at the wrong place in the wrong way at the wrong time.
And Ms. Moutay, how important is it for France-Chad relations that Nicolas Sarkozy condemned the actions of Zoe's Ark?
It is essential, and it's also something that the government has always felt. The French Foreign Ministry, the Quai d'Orsay, convoked the Zoe's Ark people 3 times in the past 2 months, and every time they said, do not do this. You have announced it on your website. You want to bring us out and children. This is a mistake. This is not the way to go about this. Do not do it. And what they said is we cannot arrest people before they've actually committed a crime, so we could not really arrest them. But, it's well worth mentioning that when they were in Chad, they were actually operating under a false name. They called themselves Children Rescue. And that shows very well that even vis-à-vis the French authorities, they knew that they were completely in the wrong from the start.
Ms. Saki in London, does the scandal discredit the cause of many other organisations working in Chad, in Darfur, and does it maybe even endanger their lives?
Well, the short answer is absolutely not. I think that it was unfortunate, the behaviour of this very unprofessional organisation. But every effort was taken by Save the Children, by all the other humanitarian actors there, to make it absolutely clear that this is not the sort of behaviour that any of us condone or any of us are associated with. And we communicated that very successfully, I think, to the police, to the local authorities, to the government and to the communities with whom we work. So I think there's absolute clarity that we weren't involved. But I think what it does do is expose just how risky the moving children across borders is. I mean, if Zoe's Ark was able to logistically manage this, even to get them as far as they did, it just shows how much risk there is to the children out there. And I think, if anything, should reinvigorate our efforts to keep children safe where they are.
Mr. Haroun, will this affect the deployment of peacekeepers, EU peacekeepers, to Chad?
I think first, we have to emphasize that the focus should be on the plight of these children. I think this is quite, we have seen children in quite a disgusting situation. It was quite appalling. So let us first say that the plight of these kids must be taken care of. Then let us talk about other issues. I don't think this will have such an impact on the deployment of an international force in Darfur, or even the European force, the EU force on the border between Sudan and Chad. On this respect, I think it will be business as usual. There have been commitments by the governments of Sudan, the governments of Chad, and the international community. I don't think this is going to be reversed in any way. But let me again say that what we have seen was quite appalling. We have to emphasize and focus on the plight of these kids first and foremost.
But do you agree with Ms. Moutay that Idriss Déby, the president of Chad, has used what has happened for political gain?
Not exactly. I think the situation was quite moving in a sense. Maybe President Deby might try to capitalize on that for political reasons. I mean, this is something that we usually see in such cases, not only in Africa, but somewhere else in the world as well. But President Deby, in my view, was responding to that situation. He was responding to it in quite an emotional way, in my view. And if I were in such a situation, it would also be the same response that might come out from me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, stay with us. Time for a short break. When we come back, we delve deeper into the issue of child trafficking with a look at the vast scope of the problem. Do stay with us.